Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So I am just gonna give people a few minutes to come into the room. I'm trying to get this fro thing right. Y'all know it'd be kind of, I think it's a finesse to it. But anyway, hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hopefully everyone is doing well. I am so happy to see you guys and talk to everyone tonight. We have some very interesting things um to talk about. First of all, let me go ahead and shout out my patrons. Thank y'all so much for supporting my content, making these Hey Y'all Tuesdays possible. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Ray, Michael Ray, and Daniel. Hello to everybody coming in the room. Hey Sade, hey Grace. So I know the notifications are going out, so I'm gonna give people a few minutes to come in. And tonight I have on my anti-status tee. These are available in my link below. I don't think it's it's no more perfect time than this. Um, because just watching what's going on, watching the things that are to come, it's gonna get a little interesting, and we're gonna talk about some of these things tonight. Hey Southeast Dusty, hey Derek, hey Edward. Um, y'all give me 1 second. I wanna fix my title real quick. So, as y'all know, Trump was recently acquitted on this second impeachment attempt. Okay. Um, I don't think anybody that pays attention is shocked by that. Like I don't get the big deal. I didn't really keep up with it because by that point I was over it. I just really like at some point it's like what's gonna happen. It's like a person that watch movies a lot, right? And when you watch movies that are usually just typical and it's like I know what happens next, I know what's going to happen here, like I don't even know if I want to finish this movie because it's the typical writing, right? So it's kind of like that. um but so apparently there were witnesses that were supposed to be called, they were never called. And in case you didn't notice or in case you forgot, um, basically around the same time that the $15 federal minimum wage was being pushed back or pushed against by the Joe Biden administration, is like the same time they started ramping up like the talks and the impeachment in the media, along with stimulus checks still not being released and other things like this. And I'm like, coincidence? I doubt it, you know? So it's like it's just too obvious. It's too obvious at this point. All right. So anyway, y'all, so I was talking about this on my Instagram today. This is something that I want to mention as it regards to COVID and some of the things we've been seeing. Well, first of all, before I get into that, let's talk about the fact that they are looking at vaccine passports, because what some people be calling conspiracy theories, I don't know why when your people on your actual news that you watch talk about these same things and they introduce them. um but let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is according to the New York Times. Coming soon, the vaccine passport. In the near future, travel may require digital documentation showing that passengers have been vaccinated or tested for the coronavirus. Among governments and those in the travel industry, a new term has entered the vocabulary: vaccine passport. One of President Biden's executive orders aimed at curbing the pandemic asks government agencies to assess the feasibility of linking coronavirus vaccine certificates with other vaccination documents and producing digital versions of them. Okay. So Denmark's government said on Wednesday that in the next 3 to 4 months, they're going to roll out their digital program. You've also had some airways like international air transportations talking about this as well. I'm gonna leave this below, but I already hinted at this months ago. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for several reasons. First of all, I'm not going to replay any of this today, but I'm just going to rehash some of this because I've given you guys the sources for this. We've read over this and I've showed you video proof of this from the horse's mouth. Okay, Dr. Fauci. But not only does the vaccination not actually it doesn't stop you from getting COVID. It doesn't stop you from spreading COVID. Literally, the only thing it stops is people from having the worst of symptoms. Okay. And now, once you further think about that, considering that, let's say, because Ticketmaster was one of the people that was like, oh, we might try to make people have certificates to come to our concerts. Typically, you're going to have younger people there. Younger people already are not the ones that would deal naturally with the worst of the COVID symptoms. So even just going on a common sense perspective, not counting for like some of the underlying conditions or that elderly may experience with the vaccination, but only common sense, because the older population deals with the worst of the symptoms typically, who it would make the most sense to vaccinate if you were going to give vaccinations. So the more you know, the digital certificate does not make sense, because if you get the vaccination, right? Like, let's just say me, for example, I get the vaccination, I get the certificate. I could still literally show up to Ticketmaster for whoever's concert, Beyonce or whoever, be like, oh, I got my vaccination. Literally, because I'm younger, I was not gonna even if I have COVID, it could be very mild to no symptoms, y'all, asymptomatic, and still spread basically still spread the virus at this concert. So when you start to really think about it and break some of these concepts down, it appears to be just a measure of more control, right? Then let's take it a little bit further, because I gotta go. Let me take a second. Yeah, y'all bear with me. So then here's your boy Andrew Cuomo. People have barely been talking about him, if even mentioning him. I mean, hardly. It's been talked about. So we'll read a little bit of this and then we'll talk about it. So this is according to CNN Politics. The story keeps getting worse for Andrew Cuomo on COVID-19. So amid the swirling controversy over whether New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration knowingly undercounted deaths among nursing home residents during the height of COVID-19 pandemic in the state, a top aide for the governor apologized to Democratic lawmakers, saying the administration froze when initially being asked by legislators back in August about the issue, which is a stunning admission and seems to jibe with reports released last month by New York Attorney General Letitia James that suggested that Cuomo's administration undercounted deaths among nursing residents by as much as 50%. 50%. Preliminary data obtained suggests that many nursing homes residents died from COVID-19 in hospitals after being transferred from their nursing homes, which is not reflected in the Departments of Health published total nursing home death data. So this basically goes on to say that Melissa DeRosa, which is his aide, was trying to clarify her remarks after the fact. Like, I was explaining that when we received the DOJ inquiry, we needed to temporarily set aside the legislature's request to deal with the federal request first. We informed the houses of this at the time. We were comprehensive and transparent in our responses to the DOJ, and then had to immediately focus our resources on the second wave and vaccine rollout. So she's saying, oh, well, I'm just saying we froze up a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. We got a little busy, but we did what we had to do. No, that was not her original statement. Okay. She initially said on a call that the administration froze because it wasn't sure what information it was going to turn over to the Department of Justice, and didn't want whatever was told the law and didn't want whatever was told the lawmakers in response to the state joint committee hearing inquiries to be used against it in any way. And that is a very different animal, because the latter explanation suggests that the reason the Cuomo administration didn't release the full details of deaths in nursing homes to state legislators is because they were concerned about how the data might be used against them, politically speaking, if it fell into the hands of the Trump administration. So, it's been months now where I've been telling people that the truth was going to slowly come out. Um, it's been months where there has been data to suggest the truth about things like ventilators, hydroxychloroquine, even when Cuomo was initially sending these people, into the nursing homes and things like this. And yet it's still, you had a mainstream media that applauded and awarded this man for his efforts. Not only that, he was awarded an Emmy for his efforts. Now you have people just coming out. You have these content creators just now coming out saying, oh, Cuomo was lying the whole time. You think? You have media blogs, media sites that hyped up COVID all freaking 2020. Now don't even mention it. Now don't even talk about it. I don't know. It's a different level of disgust. How is this not akin? How is this not as equally disgusting as the Flint water crisis, when we have politicians that knowingly hide details or do things that directly correlates to people's death? And I'm never going to let people live down the fact that every single day this man was applauded, getting on TV every single day, begging for ventilators, saying he didn't have ventilators, just for people to turn around, for us to find out that the ventilators were in fact killing people. Can we get the mainstream media to run these correction stories, run the truth stories as far as they ran the propaganda, as hard as they ran the fear mongering and the propaganda? Can we get that to happen? It's sickening. It's sickening. And to think that, I mean, I'm a little tough. Everybody's, some people can't handle it. you know But to just imagine people like myself and others who were, well, I'm like Kanye, they can't bully me, you know what I mean? But that doesn't change the fact that you've had many people try to bully people for initially upfront from the beginning saying something's not right, some of this is not true, something's going on, just to turn around and months later just to find out that we were right. Then you got this cringy ad being put out. We can get back to normal. Let me inform you. Like the insult, the insult on my intelligence, on you all's intelligence, like to know, y'all, for something so heinous, so atrocious, so deadly, so fearful. I've never seen so much promotion, marketing, propaganda, hip hop dancing, and music in my life. If something is so worthy of being feared, wouldn't people be naturally running out to be vaccinated? Why does it take an extra special level of dedicated marketing to convince people? Because that's what they're doing at this point. Marketing is convincing. It's trying to get you to buy a product. It's trying to get you to buy a product, right? I've heard people make these sayings or comments about like certain luxury cars, like you never see advertisements for them because they know people gonna buy them regardless. It's a certain type, it's a certain quality, or whatever the case may be. Yet when you have other people, it's like they're trying to convince you to buy their product. This is no different. This is no different. And the fact that so many people that y'all so care, you so down for the people, you want to make sure everybody protected, this, and the other. And for information to come out that these people were intentionally, I mean, we're going to be finding out soon, but practically criminally covering up and hiding information. And now people have nothing to say. Like, really? I cannot deal with the fakeness, man. It's so much fake caring going on. And it's like, unless the media is hyping up the majority of people to care about something, people don't care. Like, I've come to that conclusion. It's just how I feel. LeBray TV, Saul G said, I will catch the replay in the morning. I appreciate the information you give on your program. I haven't watched news in a long time, and you're a major reason why I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Um, but like at this point, I just cannot. It's like 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 don't get me wrong, in some regards I don't think it's super easy to be a public official. I don't think it's super easy when you have all these people putting pressure on you or whatever the case may be. However, my biggest problem is you don't have enough objective people. That's number one. And number two, I need them to go just as hard on these correction stories as they did with the propaganda and lies. That's the most bothersome part. That's the most bothersome part. For as many days as Cuomo sat up there and begged for ventilators, talking about he couldn't get ventilators, but even early on, there was already a data coming out of other countries saying ventilators were not good. I need you to do just as many press conferences apologizing to the families that lost their lives from y'all's, like, not good science, not well thought out medical practices, for your missteps, your misguidance. Keep the same energy. And then it makes me feel some type of way. At some point, I almost feel like I'm beating, what do they say? I'm beating a dead horse or something like that. Because it's like, I feel like I have to go extra hard and I'm extra passionate about these stories because I barely see anybody else talking about them mainstream, especially in the regards that they should be, especially if we're doing a comparison. It's like, do people really care, or you just care about what you hyped up to care about? Even what I'm about to talk about going in tonight with the new gun control, and relating that to Black Lives Matter and people not wanting more young black men to go to jail, and people like pick up. Okay, we're gonna get there. But anyway, so people are getting tired of the BS COVID. As y'all can see, I'm noticing now people, man, like I'm noticing people getting back to parties. I'm seeing people on Instagram, y'all in the strip clubs. Yeah, I mean, people getting back to normal life. Like, I'm walking through buildings, less people wearing masks now. I think a lot of people are over it. And I think they know this. I think they know this. I think they know a lot of people are over it. And this is also going to go into the new gun control that I'm going to talk about tonight. But even if you look out at California, you have, I don't even remember how many signatures on a recall for Gavin Newsom, because a lot of people are mad about how they mismanaged the COVID lockdowns. It was a whole Super Bowl. So people are fed up, and then I still can't get over the fact that y'all had a whole Super Bowl. You know it's gonna bring energy. You know it's gonna bring people, but then some mayor want to get on social media and say something to 50 Cent because he had a party. These people want to make money too. They've been locked down too. Y'all shouldn't gather for parties. Oh, so the NFL can make the money, but you don't want the small business owners, the small restaurants and the bars and all of the revenue from all of just the other little things going on to make money. But I think they up to something, y'all. I think they up to something. I think there's a very they only have a few months, I believe, before some issues start bubbling over. First of all, I'm seeing reports that they're thinking about keeping up all of that fencing at the Capitol. Let's start there. Why are you wanting to keep, because we against borders and walls. We want the people to be amongst the people, right? To now want to build extra or keep extra border or walls around the Capitol shows that walls are a protection safety measure to keep people out. Just common sense. Now, not only that, now we're seeing the most strict gun control that we've ever seen being introduced right after, right after the stuff at the Capitol, right after more gun ownership in recent history, right after more black gun ownership in American history. Things like bulletproof protection is being called into question. Magazine capacity is being called into question. I've seen reports of keeping kind of more boots in the ground as far as like military presence or law enforcement presence in DC. This is around the same time that they're telling you they're not going to do the $15 minimum wage. I don't know why y'all thought that. They're slowing down on the $2,000 checks. We don't even know if that's going to happen. You have half a country that's out of a job. You have, I don't know, 30 to 40%, 30 to maybe even 50% of small business owners that are probably not going to be likely to return. I've did previous content on it. I can't remember the exact number at this time. I'm starting to think that all of this was a psyop to push more control and legislation. Something is not sitting right with me. When I go back and see videos of people working with, like, okay, let's just take a look at it. We go back and watch videos. We see people being led into the Capitol. We know we have a Democratic Party that was hell bent on talking about impeachment and didn't even call witnesses, had no freaking proof, showed no proof of Trump colluding or working on a personal basis for actual people to go in and infiltrate the Capitol. Now you're putting up more fencing. I know because I didn't see one other YouTuber, not even one other content creator mention this, but I told y'all in the last stimulus check, there were millions going to federal police for more body armor and protection. They know that people are pissed. They know that things are starting to bubble over. They know that people are only going to take this for so long. And they're worried. And that's why people like AOC had to be the Megan Stallion of Capitol Hill. She had to run home the I can't even say fact. She had to run home the idea of she was so fearful for her life. People were coming to kill her. Come to find out she wasn't even in the freaking building. She was in another wing or another building. What? Do these people have something up their sleeve for us? That's what we really need to know. That's what we need to be asking. They want to take away our type of gun based on rifle style. They want to take away certain magazine capacity. They don't want you to have certain body armor and protection. And I'm going to talk about why a lot of people that would support this because you think this makes sense, or you're going to try to pretend like this makes sense, it's actually hypocritical of you. And the only reason you support it is because the mainstream media is pushing this narrative at this time. And they've also pushed a lot of lies about gun violence as well. But before we get into that, let's take a little bit of look at the let's take a little look at the text. So here we have HR 127. This is introduced by Sheila Lee Jackson. I don't know how to pronounce this. Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. So I am going to link this below. If you've not taken a look at this, you definitely want to go read this. It's not even a long resolution. So make sure you go check this out. So, required information under the firearm registration system, the owner of the firearm shall submit to the Bureau the make, model, serial number of the firearm, the identity of the owner of the firearm, the date the firearm was acquired by the owner, and where the firearm will be stored. A notice specifying the identity of any person during any period who the firearm will be loaned to. Okay? And if you'd already had your firearm, because y'all like, just think about this, right? Let's really think about how many people are not knowledgeable of what be out here just really going on in the world. How many people do y'all think are in their own little space, maybe already had a firearms? You have a lot of people that just really don't watch the news. They don't give a crap. They don't want to be bothered with these people BS, and I don't blame them. That's why I don't barely watch now. And y'all know, what do they say? Like, ignorance of the law is no excuse or something like that. This by default, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're going to talk about it. So, any firearms that you do not have registered in this national database, you're going to have 3 months after this bill goes into effect. I don't care what you know about, what you heard about, whatever. You have 3 months to go down there or go to whatever registry, however they're going to do it, digitally, whatever, and do this. So let's keep going. All right, so you're going to have the database. The Attorney General is going to make the contents of the database. Y'all listen to this. This, it just makes no sense. The Attorney General shall make the contents of the database accessible to all members of the public, all federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities, all branches of the United States Armed Forces, and all state and local governments as defined by the Bureau. So all y'all Black Lives Matter people, they're going to make a registry that says this black man on the block is the one with all the guns. So if you thought the police were picking on you before, you haven't seen nothing yet. That's the first thing, okay? Second thing, your information is going to be available to the entire public. So that person that may have just came home from jail and don't care about their recidivism rate, that person that's down on their luck, the person that just feeling some type of way, the person that's hyped up on drugs, they're going to know that you're down the street from them and you don't have the ability to protect yourself because you don't have a gun in sight. So every vulnerable woman in your neighborhood, family, elderly person, anybody's going to be able to look up their name, see that their name is not on a registry. Now I know easier what houses to hit, what houses to stay away from. Then, not only that, if I'm your neighbor, I'm not your neighbor and I just ride through your neighborhood periodically and I know what time you're leaving your house and I know what time you're coming back and I'm paying attention to your routine and I know you're pretty much going to work 8 to 5 and you took the kids to school and you won't be back until after you pick them up from daycare or whatever the after school care, whatever the case may be. Now I know that you have 20 guns in your home and I know exactly where they are stored. In what person's mind does this make sense? In what person's mind do they not believe that crime is going to increase both ways? Whether people are feeling like this person is way more vulnerable, or unless they're feeling like this dude got all the guns, like he lit. Like as soon as he gone on that, I know he go fishing every weekend because I see him packing up the fishing reels. And as soon as he gone, we in. I know he gonna be gone for at least 3-4 hours. Like, this is why I tell people, man, you have to read. You have to read. I already see some of these urban media sites online talking about, oh, Joe Biden's not going to take your guns. This is just to fulfill loopholes. You're intentionally leaving details out so people will support this stuff based on purely emotions because you know that most people are not going to go read this stuff and it's here and available for us to read it so we know what's going on. People will be like, oh, they're not coming to take your guns. Well, they're certainly trying to discourage the hell out of you to have them. Do you think I want everybody on my block knowing what I have and do not have? That's just common sense. You know, certain mamas will tell you, even a freaking brand new TV, you don't put the box outside by the curb for the garbage man to pick up. It's just certain things you don't do. You don't let people know what you have going in and outside of your home. That's just common sense. That's just a very self protection, forward thinking perspective. And if you let people disseminate or spoon feed you this information instead of going to read it for yourself, they will lie because it's in their best interest, whether that's to serve their agenda, whether that's for their liberal overlords, or whatever the case else is. But what we're going to do, we're going to read and we're going to be honest and we're going to be objective. That's our only goal. All right. So not only that, let's keep going. So first, you have to do a national background check for people that's never purchased a firearm before. There are already background checks to do. You already do background checks. If you don't have um, a firearms license, a CCW, that's what I'm trying to think of, concealed carry permit. Okay, if you don't have a concealed carry permit, there's usually a wait. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head even how long the wait is because I've had my concealed carry for some time now. So they pretty much know that I've done the fine. I've taken a test. I've paid the fees. I've purchased. They have my address on record. They have my information from the stores that I'm getting this stuff in. So it's not like people just walking off the street and purchasing firearms every day. That's not how that works. They already do a background check and you already have to give them information. But let's just keep going about some of the ways that are going to make this harder. So next, a psychological evaluation. Okay. We're going to talk about that. You have to successfully complete a training course. People already been doing it, okay? To get their concealed carry. An insurance policy is going to be mandatory. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So this talks about antique fire displays. We won't really go into that. Military style weapons license. So basically any type of military style weapon, which is something that, ooh, that looks big and scary, right? But you're basically shooting them. For example, it could be an AR-15, which people try to act like AR-15s are so big, bad, and scary. Okay, these are semi-automatic weapons where you still have to pull one trigger pull, one bullet released. Okay, same for a handgun. If police officers can have them, the citizens should be able to have them. It's just that simple. If you don't feel like they are good for the general public, they should not be good for the politicians, for the law enforcement, period. Period. It's no ifs, ands, buts. It's nothing. Also, for people that may have never shot a firearm, when you're talking about things like an AR-15, AR-15s are actually easier to shoot for people like, and I ain't trying to sound discriminatory. A woman can shoot anything that she trains with. But I've heard from a lot of women and even children shooters, if you're teaching your children to shoot, um they're easier to shoot a lot of times. Longer guns, especially for when we're talking about home defense. And so, for whatever reason, we know that there was some young boy, I believe he just literally saved his grandmother. I don't know what type of firearm that he used, but there were some intruders coming into their home. He was able to use a firearm and basically like save his grandmother. And they were calling him a hero. Okay. These things do happen. You don't want to take options away from families just because they look scarier and there's literally no science to back up the fact that they're uh more dangerous. It's just not true. And so why they want officers that people complained about all 2020 to have more weaponry than the actual citizens, and why people that would support something like Black Lives Matter, be against police brutality and things like this, could turn around and support legislation like this. It makes no sense. It's hypocritical. It doesn't go together. I'm not giving you no excuses for it. Sometimes I'd be like, I can see that. No, it makes no sense. None whatsoever. Makes no sense. All right, so let's talk about this license from the psychologist. The evaluation from a licensed psychologist. The psychologist has to be approved by the attorney general, okay? You have to be deemed fit. But let's take a look at what some of those things mean to be deemed fit to have a firearm. As a part of the psychological evaluation, the licensed psychologist interview any spouse of the individual, any former spouse of the individual, and at least two other persons who are a member of the family or are an associate of the individual, to further determine the state of the mental, emotional, and relational stability of the individual relation to firearms. Now, first of all, I don't know if y'all know, but I've met former spouses that hate each other. And then, can you say what family member you want it to be? What if you have a family member that lives in a better neighborhood than you? They can't relate. to the reason you may want or need guns? What if you have a family member that's just freaking anti-gun? What if you have a family member that you barely even deal with? What if you've had a former spouse that you were in a legal battle with? Alimony, something dealing with the children. So, what are some things that include the psych evaluation? Included in the psych evaluation, if you've been hospitalized, any mental illness, any disturbance, any diagnosis of depression, homicidal ideations, suicidal ideation, attempted suicide, or addiction to a controlled substance like alcohol or brain disease, including dementia or Alzheimer's. Do y'all know that this generation is the most depressed generation on record? Do you know that today we have more people on psychiatric drugs than any other time? Do you know that there are people dealing with depression just from the weight of COVID? I literally have friends and I've known people to deal with depression. I've known women who have dealt with postpartum. Does that mean that that person doesn't deserve the right to protect themselves? Y'all also have to think about y'all also have to think about the fact of how many people will be discouraged to even be hospitalized, ask questions, ask for help if they feel like there would be a scarlet letter on them. These are just some things to think about. And so everybody that's depressed is not suicidal. Everybody that's depressed is not uh uh um harmful or endangering to others. Some people are just trying to get through college, handling or having to deal with a job that they don't like, or just need somebody to talk to, may have lost a family member. Does that mean that they don't deserve the right to protect their lives? And so this would count out a lot of people. And so I do have to preface this a little bit, because I absolutely don't think that I want people that's walking around talking to ghosts, or they see dead people, or those any type of uh really bad level of um mental illness to just be handing out firearms like candy. I don't think that, but I do think that history has shown us a lot. And when you have an administration that is pushing forward and making more uh introducing more legislation without giving a full rundown of what that looks like, it leaves too much room for worry. And if we know anything, just from learning from COVID, if we know anything, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. That's a main problem. Let me read these super chats and we're gonna finish this. Bruce the Boss Brooks said, Project Veritas is about to release video of Zuckerberg weary of vaccine causing changes to DNA RNA. Watch Facebook ban Zuckerberg's own video quote. I can't wait to see it. I got to keep my eyes open for that. Bruce said they lied about the cause of Capitol Police Brian Sicknick's the cause of death, and will use all that to pass the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. Exactly, exactly. And then you had all these legislators talking about some, we not with the Patriot Act. We don't believe in the Patriot Act, and you reing up on the Patriot Act. Like, get out. Thank you to Ryder Walker. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for the super chats. But that's the main issue. It's like once you give these people an inch, we have to be on our toes, because once you give them an inch, you can't, once we're in it, we can't be like, oh well, we didn't mean like that. We didn't mean taking guns from like these people too. We just meant like them or others. It's like, nah, it's too late. This on the books now. And at that point, it has to get real ugly for them to pull back on anything. So let's keep looking at this, because I want to bring up some other points and really break this down, and how this is a slap in the face to all of us, honestly. All right, so I can't remember the exact percentage of people that you have like on like drugs for depression now. But I've literally had people close to me, including my sister, that has dealt with postpartum. But my sister is a freaking gun owner. She is like a real deal gun owner. And, you know, when uh she's at home with the baby and she needs to be protected, she needs to feel safe, whatever, she's a gun owner. And so I'm just thinking about how this will work, telling people like, we know you, well, my sister doesn't live alone, but her husband travels for work. We know you at your house alone. We know you live here, but I mean, you don't deserve it. Let us get that. And it's like, I'm not a threat to nobody or myself or anybody else. I need to protect myself, my domain, my child. But yes, I deal with a wave of emotions after my pregnancy. That's like a normal thing, right? So these are just some things to think about. The politicians are never going to tell you this. They're not going to break it down like this. They're not going to mention this, because they know a lot of people will get caught up in these loopholes, and they don't care who it affects. They got freaking private security. They got gates and borders and walls around their home. You think they care what's going on with the commoners? And also, I do want to mention this. There is high numbers, and actually most of the gun violence data, a lot of that is suicide that comes from guns. It is. And I do think that is something we need to talk about more. I think it's discussions that we need to have. I've had classmates and people that I've known that have committed suicide. And the crazy part about it is, like everybody I know that's committed suicide have been men. And so a lot of times we don't have these discussions, I don't think, or we don't have them in a productive way. Also, when we're looking at a lot of our veterans, right, that come home, and some of them are not able to maybe deal with some of the mental things they have going on. But sometimes you still have these people that may be in a position to need to protect themselves, depending on, if they're homeless and other things. So it's a lot to go into it. And those are absolutely 100% discussions that we need to have. There's an organization called Walk the Talk. Walk the Talk USA. I think that's what it's called. Please forgive me if I'm not saying it right. But that's an organization for people dealing with depression, mental illness, and things like that, and kind of beating the stigma and educating people so we can help and do these things in a productive way without infringing on others who actually like really need that protection. Okay. So, and that organization is by Mike Sedini. I was at the Solutionary Summit with him back in, this was like September. He was on the panel I was on. He's on Instagram, and I can't remember off the top of my head who that organization is like sponsored through. But anyway, I'll probably leave that information below as well. All right, so this goes on to talk about how you have to have uh basically you have to have insurance. You have to renew this license, I think like every 3 years. And I'm kind of paraphrasing and going through this. But I wanted to get to this point where somewhere in here they say you have to have insurance, and it's like $800. It should be right in here somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to drop this below. But it says it's in here. You have to have insurance that's $800. Now, let's look at the penalties, right? For if you don't register every single firearm uh, that you own, you don't want the public knowing every single thing you got in your house, okay? You shall be fined no less than $75,000 to $150,000 and 15 years to 25 years in prison. Who do y'all think this is going to affect more? Just simply off history and what we've seen. You have to go pay the government $800. And somebody tell me in the comments, I believe it's per firearm that you have. You have to go pay $800 for insurance to the government. So that's not like a USCCA that helps you attack a civil case. This is you paying something to the government. This is gonna hurt the most poor people. It's gonna hurt people in the inner city. It's gonna hurt more young Black men for several reasons. First of all, there's this fake narrative in the news media that gun owners are all some type of like hoarders. They're all some type of extremists. They're all collectors. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case. Okay. There are literally, and I've told y'all, I'm not like a crazy, I mean, I have, what I have, but, and I probably have more than just like the average person. But even still, I'm not I got to get the nicest, most expensive. Oh, this so cool. Oh, look at this scope. Oh, look at this optic. Oh, I like this trigger better. And like, I'm just not that. Or I don't even believe most gun owners are like that. I think you have some people that are generally interested in, I just want to defend my life. This is the firearm I have. Now you're telling these people they're going to have to pay an extra $800. Who do you think that's going to price out? Now think about this. Think about this. This is just being introduced. Half the country is out of work. You have people sitting at home mad about people barely talking about the $2,000 stimulus checks anymore. You have people's businesses going under. You have people losing their homes. I don't even believe we've seen the full bottom of the economic downturn just yet. And you're going to tell 8 million new gun owners, 58% of them being Black, 8 million new gun owners that now they have to turn around and pay $800 for something they already have, and you only have 3 months to do it. Everybody's not rich. Some people have to save money. Some people, like, it's the narratives and the misconceptions and the propaganda and the agenda that allows people to just introduce something like this, think, oh, we're gonna walk away, y'all can handle it. You obviously think this is a privilege. I just did a story, I just did a video with a young woman who um Miss Cynthia. If y'all haven't seen that, please check that out. It was an awesome interview. A Uber driver just trying to make some extra money. This was her second job, working at night. Now she's out of that job for defending her life. Now you come and say, oh, now we want you to pay another $800 for the firearm you already got. These are the stories that's untold, that when you see them introducing this stuff, it makes people feel disconnected from the truth of what's really happening. Just like 2 days ago, I saw another young rapper going. I don't know his previous record, so I want to kind of be a little careful of how I say this, but this is going to be on his record now for gun possession. Gun possession. He was pulled over for a traffic stop, a routine traffic stop, had a firearm in the car, nothing violent. No one was hurt. No one was robbed. No one was stolen from. If you want to say a person doesn't have a license, you get a fine for having a license. You shouldn't have to sit in somebody's prison, because at this point, you're kidnapping me. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't done anything. I haven't even shot this thing. How is that not kidnapping? How is this not one of the issues that Black Lives Matter has picked up? If you say you care about criminal justice, but I know it's all fake, it's all for an agenda. Because if you actually cared about criminal justice, you would not want more young men filling up these prison systems. They know who this is going to impact. They know who this is going to hurt the most. When it comes to not only uh uh the money for it, right? Paying all these fines and fees and all of these things, but how we look at gun control issues and how they're handled in general. We know if you look at places like New York and Cali having some of these toughest legislations, particularly in the cities. So you cannot say you care about police brutality. You cannot say you won't, like, you cannot say you care about criminal justice when you are okay with people being kidnapped and sitting in prison with no violent nothing committed. I've done nothing but had this object. And I want people to to understand, and I want to be clear, because I do not want people to mince my words. Violent people, I want them in jail. If you hurt somebody, I want to say particularly a woman or a child, but I don't want to discriminate here. But for any reason, if you are violent with somebody that has not been violent to you, especially in the process of committing any type of robbery, theft, whatever, I want you to go to jail. You need to be there. However, what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to lie and say that a young person that has this firearm in his possession, or her, should sit in prison for any extended period of time. Should have gun possession. What does that even mean? Possession. I got a possession charge on my record. What does that mean? That's not even like what? So is it a coincidence when more, and it's funny because I start thinking about it like the crime bill comes to my head. I think of Joe Biden recently doing this pandering thing when he acting like he taking resources, he taking funding from private prisons, but you only did that for the DOJ, and it's like very like small numbers of who is actually going to be affecting, and that's just for a future contract, so we don't even know the contract that's in place right now. And I think about all this. I think about all the virtue signaling of Black Lives Matter. Everybody was against police brutality, but now you only want the police to have the firearms. When I've sat here and told y'all, I've shown you, I've proved to you, in 2020, you did not see not one armed protest. You didn't see police officers run down on not one armed protest. The proof is there. It's in the pudding. Now they're trying to stop you from having armor, body armor. They're trying to stop you from having certain magazine capacities. For people that don't know, that's how many rounds of ammo that your firearm could hold. While the whole time they snuck in y'all little stimulus package more body armor and more militarization for them. It's like, pick a side. Nobody has shown me Nobody has shown me police officers running down on protesters. I have not seen it, including the black ones. There have been Black Lives Matter 757 armed protests. There have been NFAC armed protests. There just been other people just randomly armed their protests all 2020. And even if we talking about the Boogaloo Boys and their protest or whatever other militias you had protesting in 2020, protesting, I know they were out there in Virginia protesting gun rights. You haven't heard one story of police officers. But the people that got pushed out, y'all then got knocked into gates, pushed outside from the church for Trump to get up there and do his little whatever press conference. I remember people getting stuck on a bridge. Like 1 + 1 = 2. At what point can we admit that? Do you really think, really, after what we saw in 2020, do you really think these people care about you? You really think they care about your safety? Is that what you think? After they uh made you lose your job, they basically made you hide in your closet for a year, with no or barely any income based on lies. We know most of it was lies. So many people could have been saved. You could have still been at work. You could have been partying, having a good time. You could have had dinner with your family at Thanksgiving. Now they're recanting on the $2,000 checks. They're upping. I just posted this yesterday. Out of every freaking thing we saw in Minnesota, I think that was Minnesota, their city council unanimously, ain't none of y'all content creators told y'all this shit. They ain't told y'all. Minneapolis, I'm sorry. I said Minnesota. Minneapolis, after everything we saw, after the George Floyd protests, after everything people burnt down and tore down, they're about to spend 6.4 million to hire more police to recoup for all the police that they lost. These are the people y'all think care about you and trying to protect you? You really think they care about people in the inner cities where we know People, we've seen people get beat up over not wearing masks. We've seen, don't even get me started on New York. These places are supposed to be so freaking progressive. The way they treat people in New York City, we know the things that have happened in New York City. We've seen a man freaking killed on camera for selling a cigarette. And now you have a federal administration and local administrations that are moving forward to pass legislation to respond to domestic terrorism. They're getting more armor. They're getting more funding. Yet they want to discourage you. If they truly believe, if you walk on what you believe, nobody should have these guns. Mean nobody. Don't just mean citizens. Mean police officers too. And you know what? As a matter of fact, y'all lead by example. Turn your stuff over first. They don't care about you. This is not about caring about you. This is not about keeping you safe. They don't give a crap. This is about an agenda. This is about control. Because if it was really about the truth, they have access to people that have done the actual statistics on gun control and gun rights, people that have actually done a statistics and a work about solution for some of these problems. They know that poverty is a big reason for actual gun violence, and they know these people are trying to take your guns in the middle of crime skyrocketing. Crime is skyrocketing. Your news is barely talking about it. Let me see if I got the stats right here. Last year, there was more. I don't have the stats right in front of me. I did previous content on it. Crime is going haywire. During COVID lockdowns in some of y'all cities, they literally said, oh, we ain't showing up to that. We ain't got time for that. First of all, you might have COVID. Second of all, we running low on resources, so you figure it out. Now you think these the same people this just happened. They are upping their resources while simultaneously trying to take yours. Okay. I go back to Miss Cynthia's story because it was very empowering, and I enjoy hearing perspectives and things that I know we're not always going to get from mainstream media. There's a reason Black women are some of the growing Black women are like the biggest demographic of growing gun owners. Do you know Do you know how bad that's going to mess up the agenda if the word gets out? They cannot, the Black woman always has to align with the agenda at the time. The Black woman got to go give the vaccine. The Black woman got to be the top virologist. Black women came in and saved America. Do you know how popular and how, like, I'm even doing this now. Do you know if people were really talking about this, do y'all know how influential that'll be? If you put in our modern day, in our present day, putting Black woman on anything is, if the mainstream media does it, is almost like a stamp of approval. of this is cool, this is okay. Look at me doing. I'm not a white supremacist, y'all. They're gonna be like, look at Rhonda doing those hand signals. Man, get out of here. Y'all believe anything y'all see on TV. Anyway, but putting black woman on it is it's like putting a stamp of approval. It's like some modern day magical, you just sprinkle a little, oh, black women like this, black women approve. And it's like that's the goal that the media needs to be like, see, if black women said it's okay, it must be. They can't they can't. This story is under wraps. It's a reason why they trying to push this gun control all of a sudden. It's a reason why they trying to push it so hard. And we just cannot ignore the history of things. We cannot. When I make a video talking about how Martin Luther King was denied his concealed carry permit, that's for a reason. It's because we still have states doing it right now today. They're literally still doing it. It's literally somebody in the office that you ain't never met this person a day in your life. You don't even know them. And they basically can look at you and be like, she ain't all that. She don't look like she need to be able to protect her life. Denied. Like what? And so where we get I believe, and this part is an opinion. Some people may not agree with me because some people may think the vaccine is empowering. But where I personally believe that we could uh 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 use this information to be empowering, like you can't you cannot spend 2020 saying protect black women, and now you're gonna say we're gonna take the means of black women to protect themselves. We're gonna take the means from their husband or their boyfriends to be more likely to protect them. We're gonna make it more expensive, even though we know that half of them are out of a job, to protect themselves. It's so obvious, man. It's so obvious. And do you think these politicians, you think they're going to give up their guns? You think they're going to give up their magazine capacity? You think they're going to give up their secret security detail? Their security are private citizens. Can their private security have military style weapons that are just really an excuse? Some of these things that they're talking about are just an excuse for, ooh, that looks scary. No, it doesn't. And that's why I suggest that everybody go to the range and, try shooting different firearms, because once you start to learn, you can't unlearn that stuff. It sticks with you, and now you start to see that the way that stuff's being promoted to you, is being projected to you, is just not true. And being more knowledgeable and educated and informed about these things makes us more empowered, because first of all, when we're more educated, we're more safe. But even just to know, like, what's going on with these things and how they pertain to us. And so ultimately, I believe, y'all, I really believe that they think something is coming. They're worried. And it also makes me worried, because what do you have up your sleeve that you don't want me to have what you have? What do you have up your sleeve that if all 2020 I spent protesting, talking about criminal justice and police brutality and keeping black men out of jail for non-violent crimes like gun possession, How do you turn around and slap me in the face and be like, no, we're going to make this way harder for you? Screw all that. And we're going to up all the armor and everything else that our protection has. Like, what? That is offensive. That is offensive to It's offensive. It's offensive to our intelligence. Um and we, regardless of who you are and who's watching, we can help break the narrative by knowing these stories, sharing these stories. That's why it's important that I have somebody on like Miss Cynthia, who protected her life with her firearm. That's why it's important that I had the young man on. His name is not even coming to me right now, talking about, yeah, like, I did my time, but now, I want my rights back. I'm a productive member of society. I did my time. I served my time. You shouldn't be able to tell me, especially based on where I live, you shouldn't be able to tell me that I shouldn't be able to own a firearm. This is why when I share something on Instagram, like Mike MJ, uh what's his MJ's firearms, a young man that saved his life, protected his life in Chicago, saved and protected his own life with his firearm, and is now the youngest FFL in the country, I believe. This is a young black man. We have to tell these stories because for some reason, the mainstream media only wants to see us or recognize us when we're being victimized, when we're being bullied, when we're being killed. But they have no energy for the people that are coming up with solutions, trying to get information to other people, trying to be staples in our community, trying to protect their families and others. They have no energy for these stories. For people saying, I'm going to stand up for myself, I refuse to be victimized, I'm going to be my own first responder. I care about my life more than anybody, especially a freaking politician or law enforcement. Those stories get no play. So I don't care who you are, who's watching. We have to make sure that we are sharing these stories. We have to combat these narratives that are all just for their agenda and don't really benefit us. So, I want to see more people calling things out like this, calling out HR 127, HR 125, us trying to come up or talk about like other solutions to these issues without infringing or endangering more people. Me talking about these issues, what's been really dope and cool for me, it's allowed me to uh create connections with a lot of people who are feeling the same way, a lot of people who have the same interests, but we have to be more vocal about it and make sure we're inspiring and educating others. Because if this ends up going through, people that don't know the truth of everything that's in this legislation and every which way it could go, um, it could definitely be some unintended consequences. And it could lead to a lot of the things they say they're against any other day, which is bigger, larger, more field prison systems, which is more young black men going to jail, which is more women being victimized, which is more people in the inner city being victimized, which is more militarized police, which is making it more expensive for lower income people to express their rights the way that rich or higher level income people do. So if you're going to be against something, like you literally have to be against it and stand against it, and not be hypocritical and not allow your emotions to be swayed where you end up supporting things by default because somebody told you to, or they told you it's to protect you. And we know oftentimes they haven't protected us, and they don't even seem like they wanted to protect us. So, perfect way to end the show. Lowkey707 said, "Thanks for your thoughts, man." Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank y'all so much. But I'm going to try to do more content like this and kind of over time break things down of how this can be, how we can be impacted by these things in ways the media may not be very forthcoming, or ways the politicians may not be very forthcoming about. And, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. I still kind of really consider myself as a new gun owner. I mean, people probably wouldn't consider me as a new gun owner, but I do, because I don't know. I'm just still learning. Like, it's a lot to learn. And I'm not going to pretend like, I have all the answers. But what I do know that politicians lie. I do know that uh, they've exacerbated certain situations to put us in these vulnerable situations. I know that once they do something, or they take power from citizens, they don't give it back. They don't undo it. Um, and I also know that there's been a lot of people. I've had the opportunity now to meet so many people firsthand, being able to hear their stories where they protected their lives because the police weren't there. Or you're in a situation, you can protect yourself much faster than the police can. And so it's just giving me a totally different outlook. And so, you know, but this is something to talk about, something to ring the alarm about. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Thank you for everybody that super chatted tonight. A special thank you to my patrons, my VIP patrons, Michael, Ray, and Daniel. Do not forget, you can get one of these anti-status teas right in my link below. If you want to look at any of the articles or the introduce legislation, I am going to be dropping those below in the comments. Thank y'all for rocking with me every Tuesday. Thank y'all for supporting my content, and I hope y'all have a good night. Bye.